And welcome back to the Mole Valley Maker channel. Today we're going to have part one of the February instalment of the YouTube Cross Channel Challenge 2021, and that challenge was titled Flower. So there's quite a few sections to this, so I've split this video into two. The first part starts off here by turning the flower pot, and the flower pot is turned out of an ash log. The ash log turns out to be not as dry as I would like, but we start off between centres, record power 3/4 inch spindle roughing gouge, and we're just trying to get the bark off, get it down to round, get it ready for the next stage. I'm just turning a tenon using a beading tool. And I'm starting to form the shape of a flower pot here, so just tapering down towards the base. I've disappeared out of the shed to go and find a flower pot so that I can roughly base my design on a flower point. At least that's what I think I'm going to do at this stage. Back with a flower pot. So I'm just trying to form a little bit of a lip on the top, but I eventually change my mind on that and take it off, defining the size of the flower pot now, just trimming down the base, getting that flattened off. Quick introduction of the stem. Here I am flattening off the base, ready so I can use a couple of Forstner bits. First one I think is 40mm, because I have a set of jaws that actually is 45mm. I have a set of jaws that expands into a 45mm mortise. And then here I am with a 30mm Forstner bit, which is my size of my maker coin. I'm battling a little bit with the headstock moving around, but I get it sorted. And there I am, put my maker's coin in the middle, and I just need to put a little tiny dovetail on the bigger mortise to so that the chuck holds it securely. Okay, turned it round, and then I'm just quickly lowering part of the top, defining the rim, and then a 25mm forwards and a bit in a moment, just to cut a recess for the stem to fit in. The stem I'm using is either a piece of sweet gum or a piece of cherry, I'm not sure which. I think it's sweet gum. As you can see, that was 20% moisture, which is quite a lot wetter than I would have liked, but that's the way it is. I've burnt a small burn line around the top there to help stop the paint from spreading, and here I am with the orange water dye, water-based dye stain from Bulgers. I haven't done a lot of airbrushing, so I'm really just getting used to the to how they work and how they apply the paint. I've had the airbrushes and compressors for ages because I used it once, maybe 10 years ago, to repaint a bike frame, but first time I ever used it for more detail work. And then just using a little bit of brown dye to try and create a earthy kind of colour. The ash wouldn't have been my ideal choice, as really the grain is a little bit too detailed, but I didn't have any beech big enough. So that's the pot finished, and now we're moving on to the outer petals. This is a Norway maple blank. From what I understand, Norway maple is actually closer to sycamore. It's in the same family as sycamore. So these are just some blanks I picked up from Styles and Bates. Styles and Bates are based in Kent, and they had some this Norway maple reduced. A reasonably soft, light coloured timber, very close grained. Ideal for what I'm using it for, really. I just stopped there to sharpen up the gouge, and you see how the shavings changed. So I'm basically turning a thin bowl. And all the time I'm doing this, I'm thinking about how the various parts of the flower are going to be fixed together. So you'll see me leaving some tenons, cutting out mortises. That's all to do with how I, in my head, because I don't ever draw any of this out, how it's all going to fit together. So I'm marking a mortise there so I can hold the piece turned around in my Nova pin jaws. I've changed bowl gouge to my 13mm titanium coated Sorby gouge. I can't remember what they call it, Excelsior I think, but I switch between a number of different gouges depending on how I'm feeling, how it moves around the lathe, how it moves over the piece. I've turned around now, and now I've got the hollow of the bowl out. I need to go quite thin on this because I'm trying to create the illusion of petals. You do need to have quite sharp tools for Norway maple. It can tear out quite easily. It's a little bit like limewood in that respect. By lime I mean sticky cardwood. So lime tree's the sort of tree you don't park your car under unless you want to come back with a sticky mess. Bit of slow motion. I'll try this. I've got my overhead camera will do 720p at 100 frames a second, so this is slowed down to 25%, capturing some of the strings coming off. Just trying to do my best to get an even wall thickness, which I'm partially successful at. I have turned a few bowls, but they're mainly chunkier. Now I've changed gouge again. This is now the Hope double-ended crown cryo gouge, 3/8 inch I think, and there I am leaving the tenon in the middle, truing up the sides with a skew, just using skew as a little bit of a negative rake scraper. Used an index jig to find 12 points, and then by hand I've drawn by pencil sort of flower shapes, and here I am using the bandsaw, and you can see how that side edge there, how uneven I've got the thickness of the wall of the bowl, which does mean they flex quite a lot. I think you can see there how much thicker the tips of the flowers are than the lower parts. But anyway, that's the end of part 1, and I hope to see you very soon with part 2 to bring this to a conclusion.